The trade request heard around the entire NFL just dropped, and now every single contender in the league is scrambling to figure out whether they can actually pull off a deal. Vita Vea has officially requested his way out of Tampa Bay, and the list of teams that could realistically land him reads like a who's who of championship hopefuls. Let's break down exactly why this happened, what it might cost, and rank every single realistic destination from least likely to most likely. Let's start with the actual trade request itself. This all came on the heels of Vea holding in during mandatory minicamp, reportedly tweaking his back in the process, a situation widely understood to stem from frustration over the lack of progress on a new contract. He's entering the final year of his current deal, and yes, he's on the wrong side of 30, which absolutely matters in these conversations. But here's the thing. There haven't been any real signs of significant decline in his actual play. Sure, his tackles for loss and sack totals dipped slightly last season, but nothing that should send up major red flags. This is still one of the better run-stuffing nose tackles in the entire NFL, and there's every reason to believe he has several more productive years left in the tank. As for what kind of contract he's actually chasing, there hasn't been much concrete reporting on specific numbers, but the smart money says he's targeting something in line with recently reset defensive tackle contracts, somewhere in that $26 to $28 million annual range that a couple of other top interior defenders have recently secured. That would represent a massive raise compared to his current deal, where he's making roughly half of what the current top earner at his position takes home. And given that he's entering his age 31 season, guaranteed money is going to matter to him even more than the average annual value, especially with some recent examples around the league showing wildly different guarantee structures even among comparably paid players. Now, it's worth acknowledging the obvious caveat here. Sometimes a trade request is purely a negotiating tactic, a way of applying pressure to get contract talks moving in the right direction rather than a genuine desire to leave. But we've absolutely seen prominent defensive tackles get moved via trade in recent history, so dismissing this as pure posturing would be foolish. As for what it would actually cost to acquire him, a reasonable price tag likely lands somewhere around a day 2 pick, or potentially a strong day 3 selection combined with additional draft capital, given his age and the leverage dynamics currently at play. There's also a fascinating organizational wrinkle worth mentioning on Tampa Bay's side of this equation. The head coach reportedly needs Vea's presence to make his defensive scheme function properly and may be fighting for his own job security, while the general manager might actually be in a more comfortable, secure position where a rebuilding year isn't necessarily the worst outcome. That internal dynamic could genuinely influence how aggressively Tampa Bay actually explores trade offers. And here's a juicy detail worth flagging. A report following the initial trade request indicated that Vea specifically wants to land with a California-based franchise or a certain AFC West rival, which should heavily inform which teams actually make sense on this list. So, let's count down the realistic landing spots, starting from the bottom of a plausible top 8. Coming in at number 8, the San Francisco 49ers. They check plenty of boxes on paper, real cap space, sitting around $71 million, and genuine geographic appeal given Vea's stated preference. But realistically, defensive tackle isn't the most pressing need on this roster right now, with a young nose tackle already developing nicely alongside another promising 4th-round pick and a recent trade acquisition already occupying that interior rotation. If anything, this front office's more urgent need might actually sit at edge rusher rather than the interior defensive line. Number 7 brings us to the Denver Broncos, a team clearly operating in aggressive win-now mode behind a young, affordable, and increasingly proven quarterback. Adding a true force in the middle of that defense would be a legitimate boost, and this roster has the cap flexibility, sitting north of $30 million to make a real run at this kind of splashy move if ownership wants to have some fun with it. Your defender around willingness to make bold, unconventional roster decisions. At number 4, we land on the Chicago Bears, a team that's been connected to various defensive line trade rumors dating back to last offseason, albeit mostly centered around edge rusher targets rather than interior linemen. With limited current cap space and a defensive tackle room that's already received some notable additions this offseason, it's fair to wonder whether a more aggressive interior line splash might realistically wait until next offseason instead. Cracking the top three, we arrive at the Los Angeles Rams, a franchise that has shown a clear and consistent willingness to be aggressive in pursuit of championship-caliber talent. With roughly $50 million in available cap space and an existing defensive tackle room that's already performing well, the question becomes whether adding yet another significant piece to an already crowded interior rotation actually makes sense, or whether that's simply one too many cooks in an already talented kitchen. Number 2 brings us to the Las Vegas Raiders, and the case here is almost embarrassingly obvious once you actually look at their current interior defensive line depth chart. This is a genuinely thin, unproven group at the position, and adding a player of Vea's caliber would immediately and dramatically upgrade the middle of that defense. The concern here is more about timeline alignment. Acquiring a player already on the back nine of his career might make more sense for a team building toward next season rather than one still very much in transition this year. And finally, sitting at number 1 on this list, the Los Angeles Chargers. This front office has operated with real shrewdness under its current leadership. Possessing genuine cap space, sitting around $40 million, a franchise quarterback already locked in long-term, and a defensive line that features several solid contributors but genuinely lacks a true standout force in the middle. This roster never fully replaced the production it lost at that specific interior position, and the combination of available resources, positional need, and roster timing makes this pairing feel like the single most logical fit of any realistic destination on this entire list. So here's where this fascinating trade saga stands right now. A disgruntled star has officially made his frustrations known, setting off speculation across the entire league about where he might ultimately land. Multiple legitimate contenders across different tiers of aggressiveness and need are all realistically in play. And with a stated preference for landing somewhere in California or with a nearby AFC West rival, the actual list of frontrunners narrows considerably once you filter for genuine positional need, roster timeline, and available cap space. So tell us, out of every team on this list, who do you think ultimately lands Vita Vea if a trade happens at all? Or do you think Tampa Bay finds a way to keep him in-house with a reworked contract instead? Let us know your prediction down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the juiciest trade storylines brewing across the entire league right now, make sure to like this video, drop your predictions in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single update as this situation continues to develop. There's a lot more to track as training camp rolls forward. And we'll be right back here with the next update very soon. See you in the next one.